to? How's that come together?
I think I owe not losing to losing. I lose a lot in practice. There's a lot of guys who are on my team currently, a lot of guys who are on my team who's not in the UFC who's able to beat me on any given day. I get taken down all the time in practice. I get hit pretty hard. I get tapped out all the time in practice. So, unless you train at, to the fans and to other fighters, they probably look at me as close to unbeatable. Where if you spend time with me and you see that I definitely am not a guy who wins every day. I just got beat in a 5-mile run by a kid who was like 16, 15 years old. So I know that I'm not unbeatable, and so I try to exude confidence and I try to be confident. And even when I'm not confident, I'll pretend to be confident. It's important. But I know that I can be beat, and I think that's why I haven't been beat. Where some of these guys really start to believe their hype. Ronda Rousey, they were saying she's the best fighter of all time, and best athlete in the world and stuff like that. And I was happy for her to hear those type of accolades, but once I realized that maybe she was starting to believe it herself, I knew she was in a dangerous spot. Conor McGregor, saying these things about just being the baddest dude and outbeat anybody in any weight class. That's foolish stuff. When you believe the hype to that level, that's when you're in danger. So I talk about being confident and winning all the time, but the reason why I tend to always win is because at the end of the day, I'm more nervous than any other fighter. And it causes me to spend every night, until 3 o'clock in the morning, just on my laptop watching the same damn fight over and over again with a notebook, thinking about the ways I could lose, thinking about what I need to do. And so that's really what I attribute being undefeated for all these years, just how seriously I take it and how I know how much I don't know. Yeah, it gives me power.
With you headlining UFC 200 now, yeah, and obviously this big media push for the card, is it safe to say that you and the UFC are kind of back on the same page and the relationship has been mended?
Say that again?
Is it safe to say that the relationship between you and the UFC has been
good?
mended?
Yeah, we're in a pretty good spot right now. I'm ready to just I'm ready to play the game. Obviously I'll always be a guy to try to stand up for what I think is right, and I have no problem. I have no problem standing up to the UFC when it comes to anything that I feel is not right, speaking my mind and going against the grain. But I think at this point in my career, I'm ready to choose my battles more wisely, and not bicker about the small things. Like before, I used to disagree with doing certain media and all this type of stuff, where these days I'm really trying to do better at choosing my battles wisely. My goal right now is to be more active and just be more of a company guy. So I just fought in April, I'm fighting in July, and my plan is to win this fight and fight at Madison Square Garden in November, and just try to get right back into training camp after every fight and fight a hell of a lot more often, 3 to 4 times a year. And I'm saying it now, and it's probably going to be a lot harder.
If you're fighting Rumble or Gus.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot easier said than done, but my goal is to do that. And I believe I'm the guy to do it, especially with this new outlook on life and treating myself better and spending more time in the gym. So hopefully that's what I'll be doing. It'll make the UFC happy and the fans happy, and ultimately.
John, you talk about a lot about legacy and your place in history and all that stuff. You fought at UFC 100, now you fight at UFC 200. What are your memories of that card, and what does it mean you kind of be part of the history like that?
Yeah, I'll get you.
No, that was funny.
The same question.
I just had one follow-up.
To fight at UFC 100 was awesome. I remember what I remember most about UFC 100 was the pressure. I had just beaten Stephan Bonner the fight before, and I was officially on the mat, and everyone was excited to see more out of me. And I remember just having too much pressure at so young in my career to follow up that Stephan Bonner performance. So I fought Jake O'Brien, and I just remember having a lot of pressure on me to fight the way I did against Bonner, against O'Brien. One of the things that meant most to me was proven to myself that I could out wrestle Jake, because Jake had wrestled Division I. He went to, I think, Purdue, and I was just a junior college kid. And I've always had a chip on my shoulder about the wrestling thing because I had to drop out of school. I never got to go D1, so anytime it was time for me to fight a better wrestler, you know, I just always felt like I had so much to prove. So that's where it really started. And sure enough, I out-wrestled Jake O'Brien. I stopped all of his takedowns. I ended up choking him out in a wrestling position. So those are the things I remember most, just the pressure, outperforming myself, and the pressure of out-wrestling a guy who did something I never got to do, which was, you know, compete at the highest level. So, yeah, the wrestling competitiveness definitely didn't start with DC, and I'm sure it won't end with DC.
If it was possible for this John Jones to go back in time and talk for that John Jones run at UFC 100, what would you say?
Good question.
What would you tell him?
Don't wreck the Bentley.